All right, if you're a coach, you know that feeling, right? That moment a data report hits your desk, just packed with hundreds of numbers, but zero clarity. Well, today we are going to change that. Let's dive in and build a really simple but powerful framework to make sense of all your team's tactical data, even if you don't have a dedicated analyst on staff.
And this quote, man, it just nails the problem, doesn't it? This is where the source material kicks off, and it speaks to a frustration so many coaches feel. The reports are often written in a language that just doesn't connect with the coaching mind. They're not built to be something you can immediately take out onto the training pitch.
You get this absolute wall of data. There's no story, no hierarchy, nothing that screams, hey, look at me, I'm important. So what ends up happening? Well, one of two things. You either scan it for a number that proves a point you already had in your head, which is just confirmation bias, or you just set it aside and go back to the video. And look, neither of those is really using the data to get better.
That's the big question, isn't it? When you're staring down that spreadsheet, where's page 1? How do you cut through all of that noise and find the actual signal? Well, that's exactly what we're here to do, give you a clear, reliable place to start.
So, how do we fix this whole mess? The answer is actually surprisingly simple. You just have to focus on 3 key numbers. Get these down, and this framework will unlock everything else for you.
These 3 numbers, they're your foundation for everything. They tell you about your team's identity, how well they're actually following your instructions, and their discipline on the field. If you can get a handle on just these 3, you're not lost in the data anymore. You're the one in control. So let's break them down.
Okay, first up is PCS. This is all about your tactical identity. Think of it like a master key for your report. It's one single number that tells you if your team is playing more of a positional style, focused on space, or a relational style, which is all about how players connect. A negative score means you're positional. A positive score means you're relational. This number is your main filter. It changes how you should read every other number in the report. Next up, we've got CIR, and this one is all about execution. This metric is brutally honest. It answers one simple question. Are your players actually doing what you're asking them to do? Now get this, the average across top leagues is a crazy high 97.2%. So here's the deal. If your number ever drops below 93%, that's a huge red flag. It's a systematic execution gap. It's not about one player messing up, it's a team-wide issue. And honestly, if this number's low, you have to fix this before you worry about anything else.
And the third number in our trio is HD, which stands for shape discipline. This simply measures the average distance between where your players should be in your formation and where they actually are on the field. Now, why does that matter? Because it tells you if the stuff you're drilling and training is actually showing up on match day. If that gap is big, it means your training needs to change before your tactics ever will.
And there you have it. Identity, execution, and structure. PCS, CIR, and HD. These are your non-negotiables. This is where you start every single time. Everything else in that giant 300-number report, it's just there to help you figure out why these 3 numbers are what they are.
So we've got our 3 key numbers. But a number by itself, like say an HD of 22 meters, doesn't really tell us a whole lot, does it? This brings us to our next big idea, the power of context. This is where we learn how to turn all that noise into real information.
This principle right here, it's maybe one of the most important rules in all of data analysis. A number all by itself is totally meaningless. It's just noise. But the second you put that number into a comparative framework, it completely transforms into actionable information you can actually use.
Now check this out. This slide shows this idea in action perfectly. The wrong way to do it is to look at a shape discipline of 22 meters and just say, seems a bit high. That's not analysis, that's just an observation. The right way is to start a real diagnostic process. You ask questions. Okay, our HD is 22 meters. What's the league average? How does this stack up against our last 3 games? Is this a second half problem? Is it just 1 or 2 players causing it? You see the difference? That is how you turn a simple label into a powerful diagnosis.
And this table right here, this is basically your cheat sheet for finding that context. It's got benchmarks from over 800 matches across the top 5 leagues in Europe, so you can see the average for a metric like HD is 20.3 meters. You can see a top team like Chelsea at 13.1 meters. And, most importantly, you've got an alert zone. If your HD creeps above 25 meters, that's a red flag that you need to address right away. This is what turns your lonely number into a real performance indicator.
All right, so being good with data isn't just about knowing what to look at. It is just as important, if not more important, to know what you should completely ignore.
The source material is crystal clear on this. There are two big categories of noise you need to filter out. First, get rid of any metric that is basically just a fancy way of counting goals. Those numbers describe the result, but they don't tell you anything about the process. You want to focus on process metrics, like HD and CIR, that are independent of the final score. And second, you've got to ignore those one-off, weird games. One bad match is just a data point. It's not a crisis.
So, here's the key takeaway. You are looking for patterns, not spikes. If your shape discipline goes from 18M to 21M to 24M over 3 straight games, okay, that's a real pattern. Your team's shape is getting worse, and you need to do something about it. But a single game at 24M, you just make a note of it and keep an eye on it. The source actually says a 10-match window is the ideal length to see your team's true tactical models emerge.
Okay, so we've got our key numbers. We know how to give them context, and we know what noise to filter out. So for our last section, let's put it all together into a simple, repeatable weekly workflow.
Here it is. It's just 3 easy steps. First, you've got to establish your baseline. Use your first 5 games of the season to figure out your team's normal range for PCS, CIR, and HD. Everything you see after that gets compared back to this baseline. Second, create a simple 1-page post-match summary. Don't drown yourself in data. Just list your 3 key numbers, maybe one other process metric you're focusing on, and one question the data brings up for the next training week. That's it. And finally, if you don't have a fancy data provider, don't sweat it. You can estimate these 3 numbers from video in about 20 minutes. Consistency here is way more important than perfect accuracy.
So we're going to end on this thought. When you start using this framework, something really cool happens. You stop asking questions of your data, and instead the data starts asking questions of you. It might ask you why your execution is slipping, or why your shape keeps expanding after halftime. Your job is just to listen, and then respond on the training ground. So, what's the first question your data is going to ask you?